Eyes Without a Face. In 1960, French director Georges Franju startled viewers with Eyes Without a Face, a work that merged horror with dreamlike surrealism. Its most controversial sequence, a vivid facial surgery, pushed the limits of cinema through its candid depiction of a physician excising a young woman's face. In contrast to the implied cutting typical of horror at the time, Franju's camera remained fixed on the operation, emphasizing its harrowing realism. Some accounts claim early showings caused audience members to faint, though solid documentation of this is scarce. The film's foreboding vibe extended beyond the surgery room. Edith Scobb's vacant, mask-like face became a timeless symbol of horror, unnerving in its calmness. While Eyes Without a Face encountered bans in several countries, the United Kingdom in particular prohibited it for years, citing its intense surgical violence. In France, reactions were split. Some dismissed it as repellent, while others admired its dreamlike composition. Over time, its influence swelled, inspiring filmmakers like Pedro Almodovar, whose The Skin I Live In mirrors its exploration of identity and metamorphosis. Once decried for its shocking images, Eyes Without a Face now endures as a pinnacle in horror lore. Repulsion. By the mid-1960s, psychological horror had already produced disquieting sequences in films such as Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho and Georges Franju's Eyes Without a Face. Roman Polanski's Repulsion, released in 1965, pushed the genre onward by plunging spectators into the unraveling mind of Carol Ledoux, portrayed by Catherine Deneuve. The most harrowing instance emerges when Carol's delusions become tangible. Arms protrude from her apartment walls, clutching at her as she slides further into psychosis. The effect, accomplished through practical prosthetics implanted in hidden partitions, yielded a startlingly authentic impression. Polanski's strategic use of silence and amplified environmental noises magnified the dread, making the scene feel stifling. Certain observers at the time bickered over whether the film's portrayal of mental deterioration was excessively graphic, though no absolute prohibitions were imposed. Rumors proposed that Deneuve remained uneasy about the role for years, but she has never corroborated this tale. Repulsion emerged as a cornerstone of psychological horror, paving the way for later films like Black Swan and The Tenet, with its depiction of loneliness and psychological unraveling. Peeping Tom, 1960, ignited controversy with its profoundly disturbing viewpoint. The narrative centers on a troubled cameraman who captures his victim's final moments, thrusting audience into the observer's seat. Derek Hill of the Tribune blasted it as the sickest and foulest film I recall seeing, while The Spectator dismissed it as debased absurdity. Outrage severely impacted director Michael Powell's career, leaving him with scant opportunities afterward. The film's extensive use of a subjective camera, particularly in scenes dominated by the killer's perspective, worsened the audience's sense of violation. One of the most harrowing instances features a target slowly grasping too late that the camera doubles as a lethal device. Critics and audiences mostly renounced the film at the time, but by the 1970s, figures like Martin Scorsese hailed it as a groundbreaking achievement. These days, it is widely seen as a precursor to the modern slasher genre, shaping films such as Halloween and Silence of the Lambs. The Birds. Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, 1963, presented one of the most nerve-wracking animal attacks in film, relying heavily on live birds rather than extravagant special effects. The most infamous example shows Tippi Hedren's character, Melanie Daniels, cornered in a room as gulls and crows viciously claw and strike at her. Hitchcock primarily employed real birds, though a handful of mechanical stand-ins were used. According to Hedren's memoir, Tippi, the creatures were affixed to her clothing with elastic bands, and after an exhaustive week of filming, she reportedly collapsed. One especially aggressive bird lashed at her face, nearly injuring her eye. The emotional burden was intense. Hedren later described Hitchcock's techniques as severe, suggesting he deliberately pushed her to her limits. Yet Hitchcock never validated these remarks publicly, so his motivations remain open to interpretation. Enhancing the film's disquiet, Hitchcock excluded a conventional score, letting the attacks unfold with sparse, unsettling sound design, punctuated only by wings pounding and the victim's shrieks. The film's ambiguous finale, offering no reason for the bird's sudden ferocity, left viewers uneasy, underscoring the notion that nature itself might turn hostile without warning. Beyond its immediate impact, the birds shape future horror by demonstrating nature's capacity as a harbinger of terror. Works from Jaws, 1975, to The Happening, 2008, trace their premise of inexplicable environmental danger back to Hitchcock's vision. Nevertheless, the film's heritage is also tinged by scandal. recollections from those on set suggest Hitchcock's treatment of Hedren went beyond intense direction. She later claimed he sought to assert dominion over her career and engaged in manipulative behavior, allegations dramatized in the 2012 HBO film The Girl. While some regard his methodology as an uncompromising quest for cinematic excellence, others see it as a misuse of influence. Either way, The Bird stands as a pivotal work in horror, its dread heightened not only by the violence on screen, but by the chilling accounts behind its making. Psycho. Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, 1960, introduced one of film history's most jarring moments through its notorious shower sequence. Featuring around 78 camera setups and over 50 abrupt cuts, the scene shattered cinematic conventions with its frantic editing and suggestive violence. Hitchcock's decision to shoot in black and white was largely guided by budget constraints, though others propose it also tempered the scene's severity for censors. Janet Leigh's performance, amplified by Bernard Herrmann's shrill score, imprinted the sequence as a psychological onslaught on viewers. While rumors lingered that some spectators avoided showers entirely for several weeks, concrete proof is elusive. Similarly, claims that Leigh herself grew uneasy about bathing alone lacked direct citations, though she did acknowledge the scene's enduring effect on her sense of vulnerability. Generations later, the shower sequence is hailed as a masterclass in tension, proving that implication can be more horrifying than explicit gore. Les Diaboliques. In November of 1955, Les Diaboliques distressed audiences with a sequence that remains one of cinema's most disturbing highlights. Directed by Henri-Georges Clouzot, the French thriller trailed a murder conspiracy that veered into terror when the presumed victim's body vanished, only to reappear in an unimaginable twist. The film's most notorious sequence unfolds in a dimly lit bathroom, where a woman, believing she helped dispose of her cruel spouse, looks on in horror as his corpse abruptly rises from a bathtub, eyes wide open. The impact was so overwhelming that theaters urged patrons not to disclose the climax. Various film historians contend Alfred Hitchcock, captivated by Clouzot's knack for tension, aimed to outdo it, leading to Psycho's iconic shower scene. Though no definitive proof validates this theory, Hitchcock did secure the rights to Psycho after Les Diaboliques' release, spurring guesses about its sway. Regardless, the film's psychological horror elements became a model for innumerable thrillers, demonstrating that terror endures longest when it preys on the mind. Hexen. Hexen, 1922, blurred the line between documentary and horror, but one sequence stands out as particularly harrowing. In a haunting reenactment of medieval witch trials, accused women endure brutal interrogations, their terror heightened by the film's stark realism. Director Benjamin Christensen reportedly used replicas of historical torture devices, though some sources speculate he may have borrowed actual artifacts from museum collections. The disturbing realism led to bans in Sweden, Norway, and the United Kingdom, with censors deeming its content too extreme. Despite the controversy, Hexen still stands as a landmark in horror history, influencing later films that explore themes of mass hysteria and religious persecution. Night of the Hunter. In 1955, Night of the Hunter unveiled one of classical Hollywood's most haunting visual horrors, a woman's lifeless body tethered to a car, drifting below the watery surface. Cinematographer Stanley Cortez captured the moment with an eerie stillness, her hair rippling like weeds, her face locked in a silent hush. Director Charles Laughton, in his only stint behind the lens, shaped the shot with absolute care, using lighting and underwater manipulations to lend it a surreal dread. Robert Mitchum's turn as the zealous preacher Harry Powell heightened the film's continual sense of menace. Despite its artistry, the film struggled upon release. Some critics found its stylized approach too theatrical, though others lauded its striking imagery. Box office numbers were tepid, and Laughton never helmed another movie, though it's unclear whether that was due to the film's commercial disappointment or other influences. Decades later, analysts and filmmakers revisited Night of the Hunter as a classic, with its submerged corpse sequence deemed one of cinema's most quietly chilling sights. The Man Who Laughs. The Man Who Laughs, 1928, delivered one of silent cinema's most unnerving moments when Gwynplaine, played by Conrad Veidt, reveals his grotesque, surgically carved grin to a horrified audience. The exaggerated expression, achieved through restrictive prosthetics that forced Veidt's mouth into an unnatural shape, became a defining image of early film horror. Some accounts from the era claim test screenings left audiences visibly shaken, with scattered reports of fainting and walkouts. though concrete evidence remains elusive. What is confirmed, however, is the lasting impact of Gwynplaine's haunting visage. His unnerving grin directly influenced the creation of Batman's Joker, with artist Jerry Robinson and creators Bill Finger and Bob Kane later citing the film as inspiration. Marketed as a romantic drama, its nightmarish imagery and themes of exploitation pushed the boundaries of early Hollywood, cementing its place in film history. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, 1962, introduced one of classic Hollywood's most unnerving episodes with the notorious rat scene. Bette Davis's character, Baby Jane Hudson, serves her immobilized sister, portrayed by Joan Crawford, a covered dish, only for Crawford's character to discover a dead rat inside. The shock lay not just in the repulsive imagery, but in the mental torment beneath it. The film's strain was intensified by Davis and Crawford's well-known behind-the-scenes rivalry, which some theorize lent an unsettling realism to their portrayals. While Davis contributed ideas for Baby Jane's spine-chilling makeup, rumors claim she deliberately overdid it to heighten her character's deranged appearance. The film proved a critical and box office success, garnering 5 Academy Award nominations and shaping future psychological thrillers like Misery. Even decades on, the rat moment stands as a milestone in psychological horror, an alarming illustration of how real-world enmity can seep into cinematic fear. The Bad Seed. The Bad Seed, 1956, startled moviegoers with its portrayal of a seemingly innocent child hiding a violent nature. One of the film's most disturbing moments comes when Rhoda Penmark, played by Patty McCormick, coldly confesses to drowning a classmate. Delivered with eerie composure, her explanation, "He wouldn't give me the medal, so I hit him with my shoe and he fell in the water," is devoid of remorse. Director Mervyn LeRoy heightened the tension by keeping the camera fixed on McCormick's expressionless face, forcing viewers to absorb the eerie detachment. The film's altered ending, imposed by the production code, ensured Rhoda faced consequences, though some critics at the time questioned whether it diluted the story's impact. McCormick's performance earned her an Academy Award nomination and set the stage for future portrayals of sinister children in horror, influencing later films like The Omen. Despite its mid-century setting, The Bad Seed endures as a troubling exploration of childhood malevolence. Black Narcissus. In Black Narcissus, 1947, one of the most disconcerting moments of Golden Age cinema unfolds as Sister Ruth, played by Kathleen Byron, descends into madness. The film, directed by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, follows a group of Roman Catholic nuns struggling to maintain their composure in a remote Himalayan convent, but it is Sister Ruth's psychological unraveling that delivers the film's most jarring sequence. After abandoning her vows, she becomes fixated on Mr. Dean, a British agent played by David Farrar. Consumed by jealousy and desire, she targets her former superior, Sister Clodagh, leading to a climactic confrontation that continues to rank among cinema's most visually arresting portrayals of mental collapse. The scene takes place on a precarious cliffside, where Sister Ruth, now wearing a deep red dress, a stark contrast to the white habits of her former sisters, lunges at Sister Clodagh. The struggle is silent but intense, heightened by Jack Cardiff's striking Technicolor cinematography. The vivid reds and deep shadows amplify the nightmarish quality of the moment, making it feel almost surreal. Powell later reflected on the film's use of color, explaining that Technicolor was deliberately heightened to reflect the characters' emotional states. The result is a sequence that feels both painterly and deeply unnerving. Rumors persist that Byron's performance alarmed her co-stars, with some later recalling that her transformation into Sister Ruth's unhinged state felt eerily real. While definitive sources are scarce, production accounts suggest that the intensity of the scene, combined with the meticulously crafted set designed to mimic a sheer mountain drop, added to the tension on set. The backdrop, a painted mat, created an illusion of dizzying heights, making the moment even more harrowing. Upon its release, Black Narcissus was both celebrated and controversial. Its exploration of mental decline and repressed desire was groundbreaking for the time, drawing both praise and concern from critics. Some censors took issue with the film's themes, while others lauded its bold storytelling. Decades later, it persists as one of the most visually and emotionally striking psyche-driven dramas of the era. In 2020, a full restoration reaffirmed its place as a cinematic masterpiece. The film's influence can be seen in subsequent mind-bending thrillers, proving that Sister Ruth's terrifying descent into madness still resonates today. Freaks. In 1932, Freaks presented one of early cinema's most disquieting sequences with the One of Us scene. Intended as a moment of acceptance, the unnerving chant from real-life circus performers instead unsettled audiences. Directed by Todd Browning, still riding high from the success of Dracula, the film faced immediate condemnation. Some reports claim MGM made significant edits to lessen its overall grim tone, though the details remain uncertain. The UK banned it upon release, with the restriction reportedly lasting until the early 1960s. Browning's career was impacted, though he continued directing for several more years. Legends persist of a more disturbing original ending, allegedly lost to history, though film historians are divided on the particulars. Despite its troubled history, Freaks eventually gained admiration for its daring, if contentious, exploration of disability in cinema. The Tingler. In 1959, William Castle turned a simple horror scene into an unforgettable cinematic stunt with The Tingler. The movie's most unnerving moment featured a woman paralyzed by fear as a grotesque parasite crawled up her back, an image made even more jarring by sudden bursts of colorized blood in an otherwise black and white film. But Castle's real shock factor came from Percepto, a gimmick that sent electric jolts through select theater seats during a key scene. As the screen went black, Vincent Price's voice warned the audience that the Tingler had escaped, urging them to scream. Right on cue, hidden buzzers under the seats activated, startling unsuspecting viewers. According to promotional materials and some accounts from the era, this led to genuine panic in certain screenings, though skeptics argue it was all part of Castle's flair for publicity. Nevertheless, the combination of psychological horror and real-world shocks made The Tingler one of the most audacious experiments in movie history, influencing later filmmakers who sought to blur the line between fiction and reality. The Seventh Victim. In 1943, The Seventh Victim delivered one of the most disquieting moments in early Hollywood horror, a frightening portrayal of despair that defied the era's conventions. Jacqueline Gibson, played by Jean Brooks, is last seen sitting motionless in a dimly lit room, her fate left hauntingly ambiguous. The scene's quiet restraint made it all the more disturbing, with only faint background music underscoring the moment. Unlike the dramatic excesses common in films of the time, this sequence relied on eerie stillness and suggestion, leaving audiences to fill in the blanks. Producer Val Lewton, known for his atmospheric horror, took a calculated risk by embracing such a bleak resolution. Some film historians argue that its nihilistic tone foreshadowed later psychological horror classics, though direct influence remains debated. Contemporary reviews were mixed. Some critics praised its artistry, while others found its grim themes deeply distressing. Though initially disregarded, The Seventh Victim has since been re-evaluated as a psychological terror landmark, proving that sometimes what is left unsaid is more terrifying than what is shown. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our new videos each week. Thanks for watching.